What's up, guys? It's Monkelzunky, and we are going up against the Cleveland Cavaliers in this episode of the Washington Wizards season. We're going up against LeBron, back to his old home, back to his old team, and we're going up against one of the best teams in the East. And unfortunately, we are without John Wall, so Jordan Crawford is going to get the start. John Wall has been injured, and he's not going to be back for a couple weeks, so we will try to hold on without him. However, we lost every single one of the games that I simulated. I think I simulated about 5 games or so before I got up to this Cleveland Cavaliers matchup, and we lost every single one. So things aren't going too well to start off. However, Trevor Ariza is going pretty well to start off. Trevor Ariza, who we traded for in last episode, finally got rid of Paul Pierce, who was really hurting the team with his terrible defense and bad shooting. And we traded for Trevor Ariza, who's a good defender, and, well, it remains to be seen whether he's a good shooter or not, but hopefully he will be able to at least do what Paul Pierce was able to do on the offensive end with a much improved defensive rate as well. So it would have been really cool to see the premier matchup of point guards here, Kyrie Irving versus John Wall, which is some topic that I think should be debated, because I think personally Kyrie Irving is one of the most overrated players in the NBA because he's a very, very, very good one-on-one scorer. The problem is he's just not very good at anything else in basketball. He's not very good at running an offense. And one thing that was very well illustrated in this game, I thought was a nice touch, is when LeBron James was running the offense, there was a lot of ball movement, a lot of passing, a lot of very fun to watch offense. When Kyrie Irving was running the offense, he mostly just walked into the lane and pulled up for an inefficient mid-range jumper, which went down because it's NBA 2K15. However, I do think that John Wall is probably, without a doubt, one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, and even though he can't shoot threes like Kyrie Irving can, he can do just about everything else a lot better. So Trevor Ariza in the corner, spotting up for 3, getting into the gameplay here. Trevor Ariza did very, very well of cutting along screens, getting open jumpers to fall. He's a very good jump shooter. I tried doing a bit of driving to the rim with him in this game as well. Unfortunately, that's just not his game. He's really more of a jump shooting slash, I guess, a little bit of slashing, but he's not the best at finishing. So when he does slash, he's athletic enough to do it, but he can't have a lot of defense between him and the rim. Luckily, the Cavaliers do not have a lot of rim protection, as Anderson Varejao is not a rim protector, and Kevin Love is one of the worst defensive big men in the entire NBA, which I did take advantage of to a certain extent in this game. Every single time I got it down low, good things happened, passing it down to Kevin Seraphin there. Nene was incredible this game, and I really wish I would have gone to him even more than I did, although he did put up some serious work, as the Cavaliers are going down low as well with, I believe, Tristan Thompson, who is very, very effective off of the bench. Tristan Thompson as well as Sean Marion just killed me off the bench. Both of them were extremely efficient. I don't think Sean Marion missed a single shot all night, so he was just crazy, even hitting some jumpers, which isn't very Sean Marion-like, but hey, he can do that too sometimes, as well as Martell Webster from mid-range. Martell Webster is a guy I would like to have more involved in my offense running plays, but unfortunately, I don't really run my own plays. I let the CPU decide what plays to run for me because, well, it's just kind of annoying having to select a play every single time down the floor. If I find one play that's really working for me, or if I have one shooter that's really, really hot, I will try to go to them in terms of plays. But other than that, I just let the CPU pick the plays for me, and sometimes they do a good job and sometimes not so much. But maybe that's one thing I will have to continue doing more and more as I go on in this association. And Jordan Crawford, I do have to say, even though John Wall was out, so our main facilitator of the offense was not playing in this game, Jordan Crawford did an admirable job, as LeBron James just gets swatted by Trevor Ariza, who, again, did a really, really good job defensively on LeBron in the first half, even though he just fell over on that play and gave LeBron the open jumper, but that block did kind of make up for it. So LeBron was 1 for 2 on that possession, and if you can hold LeBron to 50% shooting in this game, I think that's a pretty good defensive effort. That's about as good as you're going to get playing on the higher difficulties at least. And Bradley Beal just kind of forcing his way into the paint. Didn't work out so well, but Kevin Seraphin was able to get the rebound and put it back up. I believe Kevin Seraphin was playing on a bum ankle, so he was kind of hurt. His attributes were down, although he still did a better job offensively than Marcin Gortat. Jordan Crawford just pulls up for 3, and this guy is so good offensively. Even though he's not the best player in real life, he's not very efficient in real life, he's kind of a gunner, not the best at playmaking, he is really good at this game. I believe he's probably the second best player on the team in terms of creating his own offense behind John Wall, of course, who can pretty much just cut to the rim at will when you have some of those weaker defenders on him. And it would have been a joy to see John Wall just destroying Kyrie Irving in this game on the offensive end, but unfortunately we didn't get to see that. But Jordan Crawford did his best effort. He's nowhere near as athletic as John Wall, obviously, but he is a probably slightly better shooter, although he's not the best shooter of all time. But getting down to Nate in the low post, and when I got it down to Nate in the low post, good things happened, whether it was Nate scoring or whether it was him kicking it out to an open shooter. It seemed like almost every single time we passed it to Nene, a bucket happened out of that. So that's something I'm really going to have to plan for more in the future. Kyrie Irving just hits the difficult lay in there, which was unfortunate. That was a very good job of contesting by Marcin Gortat, who has been impressive defensively, as bad as he has been offensively, as Bradley Beal hitting the 3, or Trevor Ariza even. Trevor Ariza was going off in the first half. I believe he was my leading scorer at the end of the half, and Bradley Beal just cutting to the rim here. Bradley Beal really had an off night. However, he did have a few nice cuts to the rim. He is a pretty athletic player, again, not on the same level as John Wall, but getting to the rim again, just blowing past Dion Waiters there, who's also not exactly known for his defensive prowess. And that's the thing with the Cleveland Cavaliers. They're a very frustrating team to play because they are so good offensively, and one thing that they like to do, not so much in real life, but in this game, they just pretty much pound the ball down at the paint with Kyrie and LeBron and just kind of force difficult contested lay-ins that seem to go in more often than not. But my team is making a run, getting back in this game as Martell Webster slams it on several Cavaliers defenders, including Sean Marion, who just looked like he was not enjoying that moment at all. He tried to close his eyes and duck out of the poster, but I still got him. And at the end of the half here, I'm rolling the ball to just try to get a decent shot off, and Vince Carter, I'm showing this for the reason, he hits the half-court shot. That's incredible. That is the first half-quarter I've hit in 2K15 so far, at least, and that was pretty nice. That's why you always want to take those half-court shots. It's not very likely to go in, but every once in a while you will get one to fall. And we go into halftime with a 1-point lead, and both teams are shooting very, very well from the field. One thing is my offense did pretty well, although I mean, look at that rebounding stats by the Cavaliers. They're incredible. Probably on paper, they should be the best rebounding team in the NBA because they have Varejao, who's a very solid rebounder, definitely a well above average. They have Kevin Love, who's an incredible rebounder, or at least was before this season. And then they have LeBron, who's a very good rebounder for his position as well. So Trevor Ariza, speaking of rebounding, is getting the rebound over LeBron and just putting it back up. But unfortunately, from this point onward, or actually after this play, Trevor Ariza gets one last hurrah where he slams it in transition. But after this play, Trevor Ariza really fell off a cliff. What I think happened is LeBron just tightened up his defense on him and started playing hard. As beautiful ball movement there as Jordan Crawford cuts to the rim, lays it in. I was really happy to see that. My offense was clicking, as I said, but it was almost overshadowed by just the Cavaliers' massive amount of rebounding because they played up to what they should be playing up to in terms of rebounding in this game. Were very, very effective. Not even mentioning Tristan Thompson, who's a very good rebounder off of the bench as well. Even though he's a little bit undersized for his position, he's an extremely aggressive rebounder and does very well on the boards for his height. The Cavaliers were keeping it close throughout most of this third quarter, again going to Nene with the little turnaround jumper, and Nene was just able to completely abuse his matchup with Kevin Love. Thoroughly outplayed him, and I was really happy to see that. Obviously, Kevin Love probably would have been a much better part of the offense if Kyrie Irving and LeBron weren't taking so many shots, as well as Dion Waiters getting some of his shots up as well. But Dion Waiters and Kevin Love were both pretty much neglected during this game, as Bradley Beal coming off the screen, hitting the 3. That's what he does best. He does it a little bit better when John Wall is running the offense. But Jordan Crawford still put in work. Jordan Crawford had a very un-Jordan Crawford-like game. He shot efficiently from the field, and he was getting a lot of assists, really running the offense to the best of his abilities, and those aren't really things that Jordan Crawford typically does. But, hey, we'll take it, and he's, again, maybe part of that efficient shooting from the field was just him able to abuse his matchup with Kyrie Irving, because Kyrie Irving was smoking Jordan Crawford on the offensive end, but Jordan Crawford could get him back with just the fact that neither of them could defend each other, so they were just scoring on each other left and right. And Kyrie Irving, you know, again, he just pretty much barrels into the paint and either pulls up for those short, really well-contested mid-range jumpers, or he cuts the rim and tries a very difficult contested lay-in, and more often than not they go in, which is why it's so frustrating playing the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is probably my least favorite team to play, but Sean Marion hits the 3. That's not something you see very often, but he can hit those when he's wide open. Probably has the ugliest shot release since Robert Duckworth, I would imagine. I can't really think of any players that have a worse, but Kyrie Irving again hitting 3. One thing that I was trying to do is I was trying to pack the paint because we just got killed, absolutely slaughtered. And look at this, Jordan Crawford finishing through 3 defenders. I'm not really sure how he got that one to fall, but we were getting just destroyed in the paint in the first half. So I tried to pack the paint in the second, and the Cleveland Cavaliers made me pay with their 3-point shooting. One additional thing I did is I did work with the sliders a little bit, and I upped the CPU's tendencies to shoot 3-pointers and downed their tendencies to drive to the basket a little bit. And I saw a big example of that in the second half when I stopped playing such tight perimeter defense, which I really think was a mistake. As Mike Miller, that would be a 3, but his toenail was on the line, so it wasn't quite there. But another deep shot goes for the Cavaliers, and I think that really made a big difference in terms of the gameplay, which was really nice against the Cavaliers, because in this modern era of NBA that we live in, there is a lot of 3-point shooting because it is a very efficient shot to make as long as you have people shooting above 38% or so. And look at Nene just cutting to the rim. Kevin Love trying to flop there because that's really probably his best weapon on defense, because he can't do a whole lot else. Kevin Love does not have the best lateral movement. His biggest strength is probably his shooting, and I guess his rebounding. Other than that, he can be a kind of ineffective player. And speaking of his shooting, Kevin Love knocking down a 3. That was his only 3-point attempt, I believe, for the entire game. And I kind of felt bad for the guy because he was just left out of the offense. But Nene just going to the rim again and just say, give me these buckets. And I went to Nene all fourth quarter long. I just kicked the ball down to him over and over again and said, you know what, Bradley Beal is struggling, even though he managed to get the jumper to get the friendly roll and bounce in there, and I just went to Nene instead because Nene was so incredibly effective, and I really wish I went to him more early on in the game, and maybe he could have been a lot better than Bradley Beal tossing up a lot of bricks, and Trevor Ariza, who was also kind of a bricklayer in the second half, but Bradley Beal trying to prove me wrong, although I do know that I'm right in this particular argument, but he slams it down, and Bradley Beal does have some athleticism, and just a dumb pass straight to Kyrie Irving, who does not play for the Washington Wizards, and he gets the bucket to go in transition. And really, the Cavaliers were pulling away here in the second half. Nene is trying his best to keep the team back in the game as Jordan Crawford just cuts the rim and slams it. This kid is crazy. I really love his game. I'm really glad he was in the free agent pool and I was able to sign him back to the Washington Wizards. And Nene again just scoring and completely making his presence felt, and I was really happy to see that. However, it was too little too late, and the Cavaliers were able to pull away. That huge run that they had at the end of the third quarter was just a little bit too much to handle, and they do end up with a huge lead. That was kind of my last ditch effort, and in the fourth quarter I just started tossing up a lot of threes and just kind of hoping, you know, the only way we're going to win this game is if we get crazy hot, but LeBron got crazy hot. Instead hits a 3 there at the very end of the shot clock, and it just didn't work out for us. So this is the end of the game. I was just trying to get something off to, I don't know, make myself feel better, and Jordan Crawford pulls up with a dumb shot and airballs it. That is the end of the game. That is the final score, 107 to 115. It was fairly close most of the game. Throughout the end of the fourth quarter, the Cavaliers really pulled away and made a statement, but I was not expecting to win this game without John Wall. That's very unlikely to win a game against one of the best teams in the NBA without your best player, so I wasn't too surprised. If John Wall was in the game, though, I definitely could have seen this coming down to the wire, if not us winning, and hopefully we'll get another chance to go up against this team. Maybe in the playoffs, although with all the injury problems, and you'll see exactly what I mean by all the injury problems in just a second here. We have had tons of injuries. Maybe making the playoffs might not even be a guaranteed thing. That's kind of a scary thought in the East, but we are well below 500 after I've simulated a couple games after this one, and our record is looking dangerous. So Jordan Crawford had 15-11 on 7 for 15 shooting. That's above 50%. Really impressive. Nene had 24. Bradley Beal had 22. Trevor Ariza had 18 on 20 shots, though. He was great in the first half, and he was awful in the second half. I think LeBron just locked him down. And overall for the game, the Cavaliers shot 55%, which is respectable. Our defense did not have the best effort, and they were shooting well above 60 in the first half. However, it is the Cleveland Cavaliers, so you can't really expect to shoot them down, even with a fairly good defensive team in the Washington Wizards. I still need to turn up the foul sliders. I tried messing with that a little bit, and there was just way too many fouls or way too few fouls, but 17 fouls and 16 fouls for the game, that's not realistic at all, so that's going to have to change. But Bradley Beal gets hurt. This was directly after the game ends. I think the very next game. Torn elbow injury, which is 2 to 4 weeks, so that's really going to be difficult. Bradley Beal has been our second best offensive player all season, and then Nene gets hurt. Very realistic in this sense, because Nene is a very injury prone player. And Garrett Temple, who was our backup point guard with John Wall out of the lineup, he gets hurt too, so I don't know who's supposed to run the backup point after that. But Kevin Seraphin gets hurt again as well. Look at all these injuries, and Nene gets hurt again. So 5 injuries, and that was all within a span of about 2 weeks. Our next game is going to be against the Houston Rockets, and John Wall is somewhat healthy, so maybe this might be a better matchup for us. That's about all for this video, though. I'll see you against the Houston Rockets, and farewell.